How do you find other outlets when you've always been a high performer? I've never developed hobbies or ideas outside of building my career. Now, this resonates big time for me. This is a question I received during a recent private event Q&A while discussing the lack of conditioning overwhelm culprit. And I realized it's a really great topic to cover here since if you are a workaholic, similar to me, hobbies can feel really difficult to actually engage in. But here's the truth. It's not about having specific hobbies for the sake of self-care. It's about where you find both fulfillment as well as restoration. And those are both very different things. If you're a type A overachiever and high performer who struggles with hobbies, whether that be feeling guilty or ashamed that you don't have any, or maybe you really truly want to have some, but keep getting stuck on what to try, then you're definitely going to want to stick around. By the end of this episode, you'll know whether or not you even need hobbies and how to go about finding ones that actually fulfill you today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Corrie Logaitis, otherwise known as Corrie Lo. I'm a professional keynote speaker, facilitator, leadership expert, and author who help high achievers transform overwhelm into confident leadership action, even in times of crisis. So as I mentioned, this question came up as part of a workshop audience Q&A, and it is really such a great question. And it actually resonated through the whole audience. Everyone was like, yeah, can you answer this question? And I think reason why is because it's all too often that we talk about having hobbies as being an essential part of our self-care without actually acknowledging how difficult hobbies can feel for high performers. I personally struggled with the definition of hobbies for years. I did a lot of work with my therapist on this too. And it's commonly said that this trend for high achievers in particular stems from us focusing on productivity and feeling lazy when you're not working on something that's productive. So hobbies in particular, if it's something that you're doing that's not monetized or you're not rewarded for in some way, shape, or form, that can be really difficult for high performers to get on board for or to do without feeling some kind of guilt or even shame surrounding wanting to spend time doing it. And one of the things that I discovered over the years is that this could be a trauma response. And I know for me, this need to be able to overperform really stemmed from a feeling in childhood, anytime I was alone, that I needed to be doing things to fill that time because I spent a lot of time alone as a young kid. No fault to myself or my parents. I had a younger brother that was special needs that took their attention away from me. So I realized through inner child work that for me, my overwork was a trauma response. So for a lot of folks, it can end up coming from needing some sort of safety or protection or distraction from something that reminds them of their past. Now, the other thing that I found very difficult to wrap my head around when it came to discovering hobbies is something that my uncle told me for years when I was growing up. I should say my uncle and my dad, they were both business partners, and my uncle very recently passed away. Rest in peace, Uncle Joe. But that said, him and both my dad told me this one thing all the time. And it was, if you love the work that you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And I watched them doing work that they love to do every single day, and it never felt like they were working for them. So when you're a high performer, which I would consider myself to be a high performer, and you truly love and are energized by the work that you're doing, it doesn't feel like work, right? So it just feels easier to work all the time. And because your work, you just happen to be making money from the thing that you love doing. Like a lot of folks who don't monetize that, they would call that a hobby. But for folks who do have the ability to monetize it, that's their hobby. It's pretty much spend time doing anything else. So a lot of times you could feel judgment surrounding whether or not you have hobbies, especially if you're successful in your career. The only time, though, that having no hobbies at all or pastimes is an issue when you think about it is if you yourself are feeling depleted or your performance is suffering in some way, shape, or form. So I'm going to explain this in just a second. But before we dive into that, I would love to know, what hobbies do you enjoy the most? Drop them in the comments. You may inspire someone else out there to try them out. I know I'm going to be sharing some ones that I enjoy on a regular basis as we go through the discussion. So if you find yourself struggling with, hey, should I have hobbies at this point? Is there something wrong with me that I don't? Here are some questions that you can ask yourself to determine whether or not you even need them to begin with. So, first would be what activities excite you and bring you energy today? And there's a method for my madness, so stick with me as we walk through this process. So, using myself as the case study, if I were to list out activities that I thoroughly enjoy, that I would do if I was getting paid for it, that I would do if I wasn't getting paid for it. It would be things like physical fitness. I absolutely love moving my body and the dopamine high that I get from that, whether it be running or lifting weights or even just Peloton, whatever that looks like. I love physical fitness. So that's one of them. Another one would be cooking. I really enjoy, at the end of the day, making dinner from scratch. I've always loved cooking. I like that it's creative. There's so many reasons why I enjoy cooking from multiple different standpoints. Another one for me that I love is dancing. In particular, salsa dancing was something that I picked up during a time frame where I really needed that kind of creative outlet. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit as we go through these questions. And then another activity that I love and enjoy is playing music. So not just dancing to music and listening to music, but also playing music. So looking at my backgrounds, a lot of folks don't know this about me. I used to be a semi-professional cellist. So I love playing cello. I love playing piano. I love playing guitar. So playing music, listening to music, dancing to music, those are all things that bring me great joy. Now, another question to ask yourself is what activities calm you and reset your energy, right? So where before we were looking for what activities bring up energy for you, what are activities that wind you down? Because these are just as important. So again, myself as the case study. Activities that help me wind down and restore myself would be things like reading. Oh my goodness, when I was a kid, I used to literally ride my bike to the library. I would take out a book, and this is during the summer when we had no school. I would take out a book. I would read that book in that day, the very next day, ride back to the library and read another book. So as you can see, even as a very young kid, I was tying in two things, something that brought up my energy and something that brought down my energy on a daily basis. Between riding the bike to go get the book and then getting a book. So I love, love, love reading and still read. I've read 3 books this weekend for the holiday weekend. So that's number one. Other things that I enjoy that I honestly should probably do more often. I like things like puzzles, things that are more meditative that you could work on and kind of chip away. Coloring is another one that I like if I'm not making art. Drawing and painting is something that I enjoy as well. That kind of winds me down. It puts me into a flow state. My background before I was even in business or running businesses for my families or running my own was I was a trained fine artist. I went to art school. So whoever would have thought? But that's it. So that's an activity. And then other things that I like would be going to the beach. So being outdoors, listening to the waves, having a picnic at the beach, hiking outdoors. Meditation in particular is another one that helps me wind down. I really enjoy it. And what I find fascinating is studying meditation. So not just practicing it, but going to Buddhist meditation centers and actually learning the mechanics behind it. I find that fascinating and very rewarding. So that kind of covers what are activities that energize you now and wind you down now as an adult. The next step to this question, which is very helpful when you're trying to think of hobbies that you might want to do now if you are stumped for hobbies that you want to do now, is what activities did you enjoy as a kid? What did you absolutely love to do? So again, using myself as the case study, some of them are very similar to the things I enjoy doing now. So I was an athlete. As a kid, I loved sports. I played everything from softball to field hockey to basketball, running, rollerblading, you name it. I was always in motion, which is not all that different to me as an adult. Another one, drawing. I absolutely love drawing and painting. Drawing and painting is how I passed time when I was alone a lot as a kid. So it was a very comforting thing for me, but that was a hobby that I absolutely loved and I almost made a career out of. Another one, which I'm going to bring up because it's important in context to you watching this video. I loved making videos as a kid. I used to steal my dad's Hi8 video camera back in the 80s. And I used to make stop motion animation videos with my Barbies and stuff. So I wish that YouTube existed when I was a kid. I would have been like a mega influencer. But for right now, making videos is still something I really enjoy, which is why you see it through things like my marketing. So making videos is one of them. Music and instruments, again, I played cello. I was a pianist. So those were all things that I loved. And notice how many of them I try to bring into my adult activities. Now, the next question to ask yourself is, what relationships do you miss or crave building again? Now, this question is important for context because are you craving hobbies that you do solo by yourself that are more meditative, that put you into a flow state? Or are you craving hobbies that allow you to build relationships and connections? So as a great example, for me right now, I don't want more relationships. I love people. I love connecting with people. My family has grown significantly over the last half a decade. I am tapped out between my 4 kids and my spouse and my family and my clients and speaking to audiences of thousands of people at a time. I'm not craving through my hobbies, wanting to do more relationship or people focused stuff. So for right now in this phase of my life, I'm not craving salsa dancing, but I do crave things like meditation or fitness or things that allow me to focus on myself. Those are things that I enjoy. Now, my husband, on the other hand, he's been craving connections with other people, in particular, other men within our community. So he loves going to his bowling league. He does a bowling league. It gets him out of the house and with adults, and he loves that. So it's important as you're going through and deciding, hey, do I need hobbies? And if so, which hobbies am I looking for? That you're thinking of, okay, how do I want to be filling my cup? Is it through energetic connections through other people, or do I need more introspective hobbies and time for myself? So then from there, you can identify, how do all of these activities that you just list out fit into your work and life today? So when you go through and you look at my life on a regular basis, because I'm the easiest case study, things like fitness, obviously they're very important for my physical and mental health, but it's something I love and enjoy. So it's not a chore for me to go and do it, but I do it every single day as part of my standard self-care routine. Same thing, I enjoy cooking. So instead of outsourcing things like different meal prep services and stuff like that, I like to cook. So that is something that I do proactively that brings me a lot of joy, and especially cooking with my kids. Activities, even like making videos, I do it as part of my business. So I still get to play around with that hobby, but it goes towards my business and my career as opposed to just being a hobby for myself. So there are ways to, in your work, if your work involves doing activities that are the things that fill your cup, why should you feel bad about not having more stuff to fill your cup? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So if you find, based on this exploration and these questions that you ask yourself, that you are checking off all the boxes, you may not need a hobby at all. You may be perfectly happy with where you're at right now. So identify, how are these activities currently fitting into your work and your life right now? And do you need to add or change anything? Because the underlying goal is you want to feel restored and fulfilled starting today. So as a great example, back when I was working in my former career, that was really when I was doing more of the salsa dancing, because I didn't have as much of the creative outlets as I do in my business. My business is very creative now. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm writing all the time, I'm creating content. It's a very creative business. When I worked in corporate before, it wasn't as creative. Granted, I did work on the advertising side, but that was a phase in my life when I loved salsa dancing. I really looked forward to it because it allowed me to get that physical fitness again, as well as the creativity of the dancing all in one, because I was a new single mom and I didn't have a lot of time for stuff. So for me to carve out time to do an activity like that was great, because it took care of multiple different things that I needed to feel fulfilled during that season of my life. So to recap everything that we just kind of talked through, and you're exploring whether or not you really need hobbies, or whether the hobbies that you are doing are working for you, or even your business. If you're a workaholic, can your business or your work check off those boxes? You want to be asking yourself, what activities energize you? What activities are restoring you? Then from there, what activities did you love doing as a kid? And then exploring, what relationships are you craving now? From there, how do those findings reflect on your life today? If you find there are some gaps, then by all means, explore some fun hobbies that are based around what you discovered through the exercise. If not, and you are feeling fulfilled and you are happy and you are energized and you are restored, then guess what? You don't need to change a thing, no matter what anybody tells you. So hopefully you found my sharing this today helpful. If you have any questions at all that you'd like me to answer, feel free to leave a comment below or to send me a DM. I'm most active on LinkedIn. I just may feature your question on a future episode. And as mentioned before, I cover the lack of conditioning culprit in detail. There's a full chapter on it with even more strategies in my book, The 5 Overwhelm Culprits, which is also available to purchase in the show notes. And you can also learn more ways to work with me, whether that be one-on-one through coaching and advisory, or through speaking and keynotes for your organization and team, in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next episode. See you there. Thanks for checking out The Next Step with Corrie Lowe. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. Together, we'll transform overwhelm into action, and we'll keep taking the next step towards confident leadership. See you next time.